Welcome back to the Night Shift, Barstow. I'm Michael Yagan.
And I'm Aiden Lawler. We're super excited to be back here for another episode of the Night Shift. And today we have a super special guest here, Mr. Downs. How are you doing?
Thank you. I'm doing very well. Thank you for having me. It's quite an honor.
Yeah. Well, we see you have the Chiefs jersey on, and we know that you are one of the biggest Chiefs fans in the school. I remember in 8th grade and 9th grade, you always have in your wallpaper with the Chiefs. So they got the Bills game coming up, big game. Any thoughts or predictions on that?
It's going to be a very challenging game.
Yeah.
The Bills are on fire. They destroyed the Patriots last week, but the Chiefs showed last week too. It's like they send a warning signal to any other teams in the AFC. It's going to be tough to come to Arrowhead and win. So I like our chances. We have Patrick Mahomes. They have Josh Allen.
Yeah.
You know? So, and our defense is way better than it was week 5. So I expect us playing in our 4th straight AFC championship game.
Do you have any score predictions?
I think it's going to be very close. It wouldn't surprise me if the last team that has the ball wins.
Yeah.
So if it goes into Patrick Mahomes' hands with a couple of minutes and a few timeouts, I'm going to feel real good about that one.
Yeah, the Bills' offense is pretty potent with I mean, did you see they had like a perfect game, the first ever perfect game or whatever? So
they did.
The Chiefs' defense is going to have trouble stopping them. What do you think?
I mean, I think it's probably going to be a shootout if I had to guess. I think that if it is a high-scoring game, I like the Chiefs' chances, to be honest. But I think if it's anywhere under like 35 total points for both teams, I'm not sure. You know, their offense is scary, but I just think that if it's an offensive battle, we really have more weapons than they do.
Well, and I think the thing that makes the Bills scarier this year is that they do have more receiver weapons than they did last year, and their running game is better. But the thing that scares me the most is the Chiefs, I think, can cover most of those receivers pretty well, put some pressure on Josh Allen. But it's when he runs that really makes it a very difficult offense to stop, as we saw a couple weeks ago when Drew Lock ran wild on the Chiefs defense. So that's the big scary thing. If he gets loose and runs for a whole bunch of yards, it's going to be a long day for us.
And I remember, like, in week 5, he hurdled one of our players. I think it was Juan Thornhill. He hurdled him.
Well, he tried to go low, and it's like he did that.
And also, I mean, we talk about their offense. Their defense is like the #1 defense in the league. But when you look at their schedule, there was some pretty weak quarterbacks they were playing. But, you know, #1 defense is #1 defense, so you got to pay attention to both sides of the ball with them.
Well, and I think, too, that the thing that I like our chances is that, with the exception of that Bengals game, I think the Chiefs have played really consistent, strong football for multiple weeks in a row. Whereas the Bills, they looked great last week, but they've also had some clunkers. I mean, they lost to the Jags.
Yeah.
I mean, Jags are the worst team in football other than the New York Giants. So they are a little less consistent than the Chiefs are, I think.
I mean, I know that you are definitely a prominent Chiefs fan in our community, but I've always kind of wondered how much you like pay attention to the whole analytical side of football, and if like I don't know, are you really into the numbers and the stats and the like nuances of it?
Oh, not so much. I mean, I do look at the stats, and I listen to 610 Sports Radio when I come to school and when I go home. So, you know, they talk a lot about the Chiefs, so you hear things repeatedly and you kind of assimilate them into your opinions of things. So it's not like I go online and, hey, check how many yards Josh Allen had last week or anything like that. But, you know, when you hear people talking about it enough times, you hear some of those details or nuances that help you form your opinion.
Yeah, I mean, like, advanced stats are definitely interesting to look at, but, like, not to get, like, off track or anything, but, like, in baseball nowadays, the MLB, it's really, advanced stats are really becoming, like, prominent in the game, and, like, I see a lot of things on like social media about Salvo Perez, and like advanced stats really don't like Salvo Perez, and so it's kind of just interesting on how people have those debates over whether like, okay, traditionally, I mean, he has 48 home runs, but the advanced stats say that his defense like isn't good enough. So,
and I think that if you go back to the Chargers game, if you talk about analytics, I know that their coach, from an analytical standpoint, because almost every team I think probably has somebody up there that studies all these things, and so I know they're like this many % of chances of going for it on 4th down and getting it, converting it. Well, that can come back and bite you in the behind like it did to the Chargers, that super important Thursday night game. They kick a couple more field goals instead of losing the game, they might win the game.
Yeah.
So I think you have to, take your analytics, and this is with baseball too, you have to take your analytics, but then in the moment you have to also figure in what's the situation like and who would you rather have in there. I'll take Salvo Perez as a multiple gold glove winner defensive-wise, even though the stats may say he's not. That dude is great behind the plate.
Yeah. And we've also seen you sporting Nebraska time to time. So what's the story there? Did you go to Nebraska?
Yes, I am an alum. Graduated in 1984. I was born and raised in Nebraska, so my grandfather actually was an alum in the 1940s, I want to say. So shortly after the time he got married to my grandmother, they bought 4 season tickets to Nebraska football. And that time, the stadium was only on east and west side. There was no end zone seating at all. And then Nebraska got in football really bad, about as bad as they are right now. And nobody went to the games, and so my grandparents would have to practically beg people to go with them to the games. So once Bob Devaney got there in the 60s and my mom had me and we got old enough, Nebraska football was kind of ingrained into our DNA. So you just don't hear me chirping about it too much because there's not a whole lot to talk about, except for Nebraska women's volleyball and Nebraska women's basketball. The men's programs right now are pretty bad.
Well, and like even though their football team hasn't been that great as of late, I went to a Nebraska game this year and like it was still full capacity. So they got a good fan base, and apparently you're one of them. So,
well, it's up until the time when Bill Callahan became head coach, Nebraska owned all these records of so many years going to a bowl games, and they still have the national record ongoing of academic All-Americans in the country. They have more academic All-Americans than any other university, even Notre Dame. And they have sold out that stadium since November of 1962. And you think about, my God, that's more than 60 years.
yeah.
It'll be 60 years this fall. And so I think the fan base is very proud of that, even though it has been at times a brutal product to watch. But the one thing about it this year is that all their losses were close. They just always managed to snatch defeat out of the jaws of victory every single time this year.
Yeah, I mean, I do remember seeing that like banner up there with the consecutive sellouts. So that was impressive to me. But it was a really like cool experience, and it was a cool fan base to be around.
Well, I think there are certain places that if you were going to go really experience, whether it be the classic Major League Baseball experience, you'd want to go to Wrigley Field or Fenway Park. Or in basketball, you'd want to go to Allen Fieldhouse, or you'd want to go to Cameron Indoor Arena in Duke. Nebraska's football Memorial Stadium is one of those places. Like, if you really want to know what it's like to feel the excitement of college football, that's one place you go.
Yeah, I now that I think about it, I remember being in Omaha for a basketball tournament this past summer. And we drove through the Nebraska campus, and I saw the football stadium. I had to do like a double take because it was huge. And their basketball arena too. Like, they have some really nice facilities, but that football stadium is impressive.
It is it becomes the third largest city in Nebraska on game days, because Omaha by far is the largest, and then Lincoln's about 200,000 people. But once they get everybody in there, is 90,000 people, and that makes it the third largest city in that spot. So it's kind of a weird oxymoron, kind of jokingly, it's the third largest city in Nebraska.
I just have a question. What is a Cornhusker?
It's literally somebody.
A Cornhusker?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
literally someone that if you've bought corn at a store and it's got the green part all over it,
Mm-hmm.
that's the husk of the corn. And so back in the day before you really had machinery that would
Mm-hmm.
do that, they would have to hire people to rip those things off for you to be able to use it either
Mm-hmm.
for your livestock or for you. If you want a really tough summer job, you got to go be a detasseler in the summer in Nebraska. Hot, sweaty, a very challenging job.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, that is good to know. Kind of to stay on the track of sports, you are the girls tennis coach, one of the
JV girls.
Yeah,
Right.
And but you were part of their state run this year. Do you want to talk about that a little bit? Kind of like how cool it was and what that experience was like.
Well, kudos to the JV girls. They were an amazing group of players, and they really truly embraced the idea that, hey, we got our season that we didn't get to do last year because of COVID, and it was hot. We had a very hot end of the summer and even September. So they were out there day in, day out, giving me 100%. So that was a great experience, and shout out to them. They were wonderful to coach. And then the varsity girls, it took us a while to build up that team chemistry because of various different factors that played into that. But once we got to our end of the year tournament, our Kansas City Invitational, where we were playing all these really big schools with really, really tough programs like Shawnee Mission East and Grain Valley and Manhattan out in Kansas, we did exceptionally well there. We won the singles championship, we won the doubles championship in the A flight, and we were runner-up in the B. And the fact too that Atra and Phoebe beat the two-time defending state champions from Kansas in 6A in that doubles final. I think that tournament really was the ignition to a lot of team chemistry and a lot of support, rallying around each other and really pulling for each other. So by the time we got down to Springfield and played state competition, we just rolled. I mean, they played such great tennis, both in the individual state and the team state. But the thing is that it was the journey to get there and how they enjoyed the experience and how they enjoyed it together as a team. So that was fantastic. That was the best part.
Yeah, and you were also coaching alongside now the National Coach of the Year, Coach O'Brien.
Yeah. He can't do it without me, I'm telling you. No, it's an honor. Coach O'Brien is, I've known Coach O'Brien actually since I worked at O'Hara and he was still at Hickman Mills. So he's a big reason why I'm actually working at Barstow, because when O'Hara was closing in 2017, I reached out to him and said, hey, do you know if there's any science positions open at Barstow? And he said, yeah, there actually is. So I'm sure Coach O'Brien put in a few good words for me. And so to be here and then to work with him and see how he does things day to day, it's been wonderful. It's been a real honor to be able to work with him.
Well, what was really impressive to me about that team, well, I mean, it's impressive to everybody, but that they're so young. There was no seniors on that team, and that now they're all going to be back next year. So, obviously you're looking forward to making another run next year?
Very much.
Yeah.
This is by far, no shade to the defending Class 1 boys champions last spring. This has been the most talented team that I've ever been around. When you're talking about our top 3 or 4 players, very rarely did you go into a match going, man, this is a toss-up, I don't know. You just really felt they were so talented and they worked so hard and they were so focused that we could count on 3 or 4 wins almost automatically in singles, meaning that you really only have to win 1 or 2 more matches to beat the team competition when we had everybody in the lineup. So, we got at the team competition, our semifinal match was our toughest match of the whole trip, and then the championship was almost a foregone conclusion. We just rolled through our championship match. So, it's exciting.
Yeah. And you mentioned O'Hara, and in coming to Barstow, what is kind of the story with your science trajectory and how you ended up here?
Well, I taught at Archbishop O'Hara for 23 years. I enjoyed it. I loved that experience. The place was like a family. That was the one thing that I liked about being at a smaller private school.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was really proud of the work that we as a staff did to not only help with the kids learn about science or math or English or whatever it happened to be the subject, but we also were there to reach out to help each other and also reach out to help out the community. I think that was one of our big aspects that I liked about our school. So when the diocese decided they were going to open up a newer school in Lee Summit, and I wasn't part of that plan, I was like, well, I feel like I'm a good teacher. I can find a place to work, and fortunately Barstow gave me that opportunity, and still very, very happy to be here.
Yeah, so you said you were going on 5 years now at Barstow. What's it mean to kind of be part of this community?
Well, I think just like when the more you go through your journey, sophomore, junior year, you start to feel like there's this group of people that you know really well in various different aspects of things. And I think that's what I've enjoyed, getting to that point where, the staff the teachers that I work with, I'm so very blessed that they are so talented and they're so dedicated, and they really want to do such a great job. It's inspiring for me to say, hey, you better not be dragging your feet, because these people are so good at what they do. You need to draw from the things they do and get better too. and then you all are wonderful, because you do really work hard, and you really, really do take the advantages and the blessings that you have here to its full advantage, because I know your parents making a tremendous sacrifice to have you here, and so I think for the most part, most students here really see that and don't want to waste that opportunity. So,
yeah, and I know that our class had you back-to-back years, and especially through that COVID year, I think that your class was. I think there was to our advantage to have you for 2 years in a row.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely have an impact, like a lasting impact on our class, because
that's nice.
that was kind
Thank
of a
you.
tough
That's
year
very
that we
kind.
got through in 8th grade, and then it was nice to have you again in 9th grade. So,
well, and I think, and I hope I said this to your class specifically last year, that it was very comforting for me to know that the majority of my classes I was going to be teaching was with people that I've worked with, that I appreciated, that I enjoyed, and that there was, with all the other uncertainties of how last year was going to go, to know that I could rely upon this group of people that I thought of so much of, to be able to kind of help me get through things too. So this wasn't me just trying to be there for you. I felt like you helped me get through some of those things too.
Yeah, and I mean, we talk a lot about the difficulties of having the hybrid learning and everything that went on during that year where COVID was just shutting everything down. But I know that one of my favorite things about your class was how interactive it was, and I think that out of all my teachers, you were one of the ones that was really great at making sure that everyone on Zoom was involved and everyone in person was still caught up to speed with everyone. So do you have any secrets or philosophies on how you run your class?
Well, I just want to tell the viewers that I slipped some money under the table for Aiden and Michael to be able to say such nice things for me. But I just feel like, I think my philosophy has always been, since I became a teacher, that there's a realization that you can't always help everybody, and that's when you first realize that, you get disappointed in yourself, because it's like, well, this is what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to help all the students in my class. But that doesn't deter me from trying. And I think that's the big part of it. It's like, yes, I could have done all these things. Well, these people are here. We're just doing them because I want you to do them, and then the other people at home are just just collateral damage. I just felt like your education, for your experience, for what you were having to go through, was important for you too, and so I needed to make sure I reciprocated that importance to all of you, and I still try to make sure that happens as best I can. Sometimes I'm more successful at it than others, and other times we do a Salvo Perez and jack one out of the park. So
Yeah, I mean that's a really good mindset to teach with. So, but I think that's all we have for today. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
You're very welcome, and thank you for asking me. It was quite an honor that you said, "Hey, let's talk to this guy."
No, yeah, you're a big part of the Barstow community, and we appreciate you coming on.
Yeah.
So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
No, thank you guys. Appreciate it.
All right, we will see you the next time on the night shift.